Right, let's talk about Exodus, the book of Exodus. This isn't just any old book, it's the second book of the Bible, and it's packed with some of the most dramatic and awe-inspiring stories you'll ever come across. The second book of the Bible. It's a cornerstone of both Jewish and Christian traditions, and its influence can be seen in countless aspects of culture and history. An epic tale of escape, freedom, and divine intervention. Imagine the sheer spectacle of the Red Sea parting, walls of water towering on either side as a path opens up for the Israelites to escape their pursuers. It's got it all: plagues, miracles, a bloke called Moses with a speech impediment. What's not to love? Moses, despite his initial reluctance and self-doubt, becomes the central figure in this grand narrative. Buckle up, because we're diving headfirst into this biblical blockbuster. Picture the Israelites, a nation of people running through the desert, their hearts pounding with the hope of freedom and the fear of the unknown. Think of it as a right good drama set in the scorching deserts of Egypt. The heat, the sand, the tension, it's all there, creating a backdrop for one of the most compelling stories ever told. We've got a captive nation yearning for freedom, a reluctant hero chosen by God, and a Pharaoh who's more stubborn than a mule with a toothache. The confrontations between Moses and Pharaoh are legendary, each one escalating the stakes higher and higher. It's a story for the ages, folks. The journey through the desert is not just a physical trek, but a spiritual and emotional odyssey, filled with trials and tribulations that test the faith and resolve of the Israelites. Exodus is more than just an ancient history lesson, though. It's a narrative that has been studied, analyzed, and revered for centuries, offering timeless lessons that resonate even today. It's a story about hope, resilience, and the enduring power of faith. The Israelites' journey is a testament to the human spirit's ability to persevere in the face of overwhelming odds. It's about finding your voice, standing up for what's right, and trusting that even in the darkest of times, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Moses' leadership and the Israelites' faith are central themes that inspire and uplift. So, grab a cuppa, get comfy, and let's journey back in time to the land of pharaohs and pyramids. Imagine the ancient world with its towering monuments and rich history as we delve into the story of Exodus. It's going to be a wild ride. The desert landscape, with its vast expanses and hidden dangers, sets the stage for an adventure filled with mystery, miracles, and moments of profound revelation. The story of Exodus is etched into the very fabric of history, like the hieroglyphics on ancient temple walls. Each symbol and story carries a weight of meaning that has been passed down through generations. Even today, the story of Exodus is commemorated and celebrated, particularly during Passover, when families gather to retell the tale of liberation and reflect on its significance. Artists throughout the ages have been inspired by the story of Exodus, creating works that capture its drama, its pathos, and its enduring message of hope and freedom. As we explore this ancient story, we also see its echoes in the modern world. The bustling marketplaces, the vibrant culture, and the enduring spirit of the people of Egypt remind us that history is a living, breathing entity. The Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt, flows through this story as a symbol of sustenance, survival, and the passage of time. Its waters have witnessed the rise and fall of empires and the journey of a people seeking freedom. Just as the sun rises over the desert, bringing light and warmth, the story of Exodus brings a message of new beginnings, of hope renewed, and of the enduring power of faith and resilience. So as we stand with Moses on the mountaintop, looking out over the promised land, let's take a moment to reflect on the journey, the lessons, and the timeless message of the book of Exodus. It's a story that continues to inspire, challenge, and uplift us, reminding us that no matter the obstacles, the promise of freedom and hope is always within reach. Once upon a time, in Egypt, a land of ancient wonders and timeless mysteries. Picture this: the Israelites, God's chosen people, are stuck living in Egypt, a place that was both a refuge and a prison. Not the luxury Nile cruises you see on the telly, mind you. No, their reality was far grimmer. They're grafting away as slaves, building pyramids bigger than your local supermarket, toiling under the scorching sun day in and day out. Pharaoh, the big cheese in charge, is a bit of a tyrant. He rules with an iron fist, his heart hardened against the suffering of the Israelites. He's more concerned with his own power than the plight of the Israelites. His grand monuments and lavish lifestyle come at the cost of their freedom and dignity. Life's a bit bleak, to put it mildly. The Israelites are trapped in a cycle of endless labor and despair, their spirits crushed under the weight of oppression. The Israelites are missing their homeland, feeling a bit like lost sheep, yearning for a shepherd. They long for the days of their ancestors, for the promises made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They cry out to God for help, hoping for a miracle. Their prayers are filled with desperation and hope, a plea for deliverance from their suffering. Little do they know, something big is brewing. In the heavens, a plan is being set into motion, a plan that will change the course of history. God hears their cries, sees their suffering, and decides it's time for a change. His heart is moved by their plight, and he is determined to rescue his people. He's got a plan, a daring escape plan, and he needs someone to lead the way. Enter Moses, stage left. Moses, a man with a complicated past, raised in the Pharaoh's palace, but with the heart of an Israelite. Moses' story begins with a miraculous rescue. As a baby, he was placed in a basket and set adrift on the Nile, only to be found and adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. He grew up with the privileges of royalty, but never forgot his true heritage. As he grew older, Moses became increasingly aware of the suffering of his people. He was torn between his life of luxury and the cries of his fellow Israelites. This inner conflict led him to a fateful decision. After a violent confrontation, Moses fled Egypt, leaving behind his royal life. He found refuge in the desert, where he started a new life as a shepherd, but his destiny was far from over. One day, while tending his flock, Moses encountered a burning bush that was not consumed by the flames. From this miraculous sight, God spoke to him, revealing his plan for the liberation of the Israelites. God commanded Moses to return to Egypt and lead his people to freedom. It was a daunting task, but Moses, with faith and determination, accepted the challenge. Armed with God's promise and his own resolve, Moses returned to Egypt. He confronted Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Israelites. This was the beginning of a dramatic and epic struggle for freedom. What followed were the 10 plagues of Egypt, each one a powerful demonstration of God's might. From the Nile turning to blood, to swarms of locusts and darkness covering the land, each plague was a step towards the liberation of the Israelites. Finally, after the devastating 10th plague, Pharaoh relented. The Israelites, after generations of slavery, were free to leave. They gathered their belongings and prepared for the journey of a lifetime. Their escape was nothing short of miraculous. As they reached the Red Sea, God parted the waters, allowing them to cross on dry land. It was a moment of triumph and divine intervention. On the other side, the Israelites celebrated their newfound freedom. They danced and sang, rejoicing in their deliverance. It was the beginning of a new chapter in their history, a journey towards the Promised Land. Led by Moses, the Israelites embarked on a long and arduous journey through the desert. It was a time of trials and tribulations, but also of faith and hope. Along the way, they reached Mount Sinai, where Moses received the 10 Commandments from God. These laws would become the foundation of their new society, guiding them in their quest for the Promised Land. And so the Israelites continued their journey, with the Promised Land always in their sights. Their story is one of resilience, faith, and the enduring power of hope. A basket case, baby Moses. The story of Moses begins in a rather unusual way. Imagine a tiny baby placed in a basket floating down the mighty Nile River. It's not exactly the start you'd expect for someone who would become one of the most significant figures in biblical history. Now, Moses wasn't your typical hero. He didn't have the makings of a legendary warrior or a charismatic leader from the get-go. He wasn't a muscle-bound warrior or a silver-tongued charmer. In fact, his beginnings were quite humble and fraught with danger. He was, well, a bit of a basket case, literally. His mother, in a desperate attempt to save him from the Pharaoh's decree to kill all Hebrew baby boys, placed him in a waterproof basket and set him adrift on the Nile. Found as a baby floating down the Nile, he was rescued and raised by Pharaoh's daughter. She took pity on the crying infant and decided to adopt him, giving him a life of privilege in the Egyptian royal court. Talk about awkward family reunions, eh? Growing up, Moses must have felt a sense of dual identity, being a Hebrew raised as an Egyptian prince. This unique upbringing would later play a crucial role in his destiny. One day, Moses sees an Egyptian guard giving an Israelite a right good hiding. He's outraged. The sight of his fellow Hebrew being mistreated stirs something deep within him. He steps in, loses his temper, and well, let's just say the guard doesn't get up again. Oops! In a fit of rage, Moses strikes the guard, killing him. This act of violence marks a turning point in his life. Now a wanted man, Moses flees to the desert. Fearing for his life, he leaves behind the only home he has ever known and ventures into the harsh wilderness. He spends years tending sheep, probably wondering what his life had become. In the solitude of the desert, Moses has plenty of time to reflect on his actions and his purpose, but God had other plans. Little did Moses know his time in the desert was a period of preparation. God was shaping him for a monumental task ahead. Moses would soon discover that his journey was far from over, and his true calling was about to be revealed.